Michael Karolewski is the author of The Soul Selector and The Prophet's Debt from the Valcara Incorporated series. And he's on the line with us here just now. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Excited to be talking with you.
Now, what was the kind of background behind those book names for Valcara Incorporated?
Yeah, so actually the series name, so right now there's two books in the series that are incorporated. It's the world of Valcara. It's this purgatory world that I created for the books. And so that's the Valcara portion. And then incorporated is bringing in the corporate side of things. So Valcara is a corporate version of purgatory. So I thought it just kind of gave a nice fantasy and corporate combo with the series name. And then I'll say for the book name, so the Soul Sector, which is the first book, that took me a very long time to get to. I love some narration and the word soul is just a very important aspect of the books because the afterlife in this book, souls are traded like stocks essentially. So soul sector, kind of like the financial sector, but for souls. And in the second book, the prophet's debt is just kind of a little pun. Prophet's debt, kind of an oxymoron, but a prophet is a seer, and there's a prophet in the second book that has a debt to pay. So these are kind of the backgrounds of the names.
And the kind of story overall explores the themes of corporate control, manipulation, and grief as well. So, what was the inspiration behind exploring all those different themes?
Yeah, I'll say that I started with the corporate angle first. So I was working on this book, and it actually existed in a pretty different format. I was working parents, 9-to-5 office job. And I kind of was really enjoying my time in corporate America. And it was writing a story about a character working at a company if there was magic in the world. So basically, if you could sell like fortune telling, tarot card readings, and just different magical types of services. And that is what I was working on until halfway through the book. I was working at one insurance company, and then my department got acquired, and it really wasn't a very pleasant experience for me. I felt like I was doing really well in my current role, and then going to the new company, I just wasn't thriving as much. I felt very much like I was trapped in limbo, and I think that my writing took more of a more cynical approach. And so that's where I kind of started writing more about corporate greed, having felt like I was kind of like, on just getting acquired by a different company. And then it kind of turned into that metaphorical limbo. It's like, all right, well, I love talking about fantasy and, the afterlife and death are such interesting topics to me. So I kind of merged the corporate side of things and my interest in the existential and afterlife and kind of just melded it together. And that kind of is where the story really got kicked into high gear.
Absolutely. And the main character feels grief and healing throughout the series. So how do you view the complexities of grief and the path to healing?
I think that that was some of the hardest themes to delve into. I can be usually a little sarcastic and dry humor. A lot of the book reads satirical, but also serious. Going into some of the more emotional aspect was really important to me and definitely helped me explore kind of my own feelings of grief and how you kind of work through those moments of despair. And I think it can either grief can really either hurt a person that they can't ever come back from, but I think it also just gives you such an opportunity to grow and turn into something more resilient. And so just tapping into those characters with into those feelings with my main character Rose. She starts off in a very broken and dark place, and just trying to work through some of my own issues in life, and kind of just getting to work through it with her, and just understanding that even in your darkest moments, there are going to be people and experiences that can help you kind of get over that. And so it's kind of a cathartic experience for me, just kind of working through it with the character. And that's one of my favorite aspects. Is kind of she goes on a redemption quest where she rediscovers who she used to be before she was taken down by her grief, and she turns into a better version of herself, which I found pretty satisfying.
Absolutely. And apart from the kind of dark dilemmas in the story, you also bring in an afterlife perspective to give readers an existential philosophy, perhaps, don't you?
Yes, I have always been an existential philosopher. I like to kind of ponder the great mysteries of life, and just kind of thinking about what really is out there after life and kind of
Mm.
interrogate my own thoughts on it because it is such a complicated answer or a complicated question, obviously. I love thinking about those things. I love just, just pondering and creating different possibilities. And so that was really just kind of fun to just make up my own version of the afterlife.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's kind of a darker version that I'm hoping if there is an afterlife, it's not this one because this one is, nobody wants to work in capitalist purgatory forever.
Yeah.
But it was like it just kind of felt like the perfect kind of analogy for how I was feeling in my life, just in terms of feeling in limbo at work and then just expanding that to the life.
Yeah. And how do you come up with, such vivid ideas like that?
Oh, I think my mom always is like, "What goes on in that brain of yours that you come up with
Yeah.
these ideas?" And I'm like, "I wish I could tell you."
Yeah.
I've always been creative. I've always had kind of a wild imagination. I've been writing since I was a child. I get most of my ideas when I'm out in nature and walking and just having my alone time, listening to music. I think just getting the ideas, it's just, you just have to let your brain be receptive to crazy ideas and then whittle them down and get to something that actually makes some sense because a lot of these ideas start off as pretty bizarre and they remain bizarre, but it's really just don't say no to any idea. I journal every day, and that's kind of where I think a lot of my creative flow comes from, where I could just be talking about something boring that happened in my day yesterday, and then it just sparks an idea for a scene or character. And I think just always making time to interrogate the little things in life can really lead to some interesting book ideas. So I make sure to journal every day, and I make sure to go out for walks every day, and just let my mind go into overdrive.
Absolutely. And what's the reader feedback been like so far? Have you had any positive or maybe even negative comments?
I've gotten both. I'll say
Mm.
over it and majority positive, which is obviously always great.
Yeah.
One of my favorite comments I got is this book is, I would describe it as an amusingly bizarre onion. And I was like, what does that mean? And then he was just saying that it explores some very bizarre ideas. It's amusing with its dry humor and, black comedy, but also the onions, there are layers to it. There's, the grief, there's the feeling of, the corporate greed and manipulation. And I think just having somebody like lay out all the different layers that I tried to work in, it is quite a dense book, and having someone see it and appreciate the
Mm.
complexities in it was really, really heartwarming for me because it takes a lot to weave these plots together. For someone to appreciate all of that is so nice. And then of course my character is kind of hard to root for in the beginning because she's a broken soul, and I think sometimes readers can be put off by characters who aren't instantly likable, whereas I'm drawn to characters who maybe start in a darker place and grow and find that redemption. And so there have been situations where I think sometimes my character can be off-putting to people who aren't attracted to maybe the anti-hero or more morally gray characters. And sometimes that can be difficult because obviously I feel very protective of my main protagonist, Rose. I've been writing her for years now. Some people don't like her. I take it somewhat personally, but I also understand that every reader has their own opinions and no opinion's wrong. That's what makes writing and reading fascinating and dynamic. So it's just fun. It's just fun to get comments, good or bad. It's just nice to know that the work is out there and people are engaging with it.
Absolutely. Now, are there any plans for more books or stories, maybe either in this series or outside of it?
Yes. So this series I intend to be about 6 books, maybe 7, maybe 8. I kind of have the overall series arc, but the number of books could still change. So I'm working on
Yeah.
the third book in the series, but I'm also working on a spin-off right now,
Ooh.
actually, which I hope to be the next book that I put out, which is more of a young adult fantasy. It takes place in the same universe, so it still has this Valkyrian purgatory. Still has, all of that going on, but it's with new characters and storyline. And it's been kind of fun working with some new characters and just exploring some different themes with them. So my plan right now is to work on that young adult novel and then put out the third book of series after that.
Excellent. Well, in the meantime, where are we able to find everything that you've came out with so far?
Yeah, so I have my website, which is michaelkarolewski.com. My books are available on Amazon. You can either search for The Soul Sector, you can search for The Prophet's Debt, or Valkyrie Incorporated. You can find Kindle, ebooks, and paperbacks. And then I'm just always posting on my Instagram and Facebook. So I'm out there spreading the word, hoping to find new readers. So always out there.
Excellent. Well, many thanks for talking to us today. It's been great to have you on the show.
Great. Thank you so much. Great to talk with you.